Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Third Chances. Today, my guest is Sarah Malone. She's a founder of Spark, The Secret Place. Sarah is author, hypnotherapist, TV personality, and she helps people heal deep-seated trauma and align with their true selves. She works one-on-one with clients, speaks publicly on the ego, oh gosh, subconscious mind, and the soul. Sarah also leads transformative retreats, courses, and hosts a membership community to guide others towards emotional freedom and spiritual growth. Well, that's a lot of words that resonate with some and turn off some others. So I can't wait to dig in and find more about from you. Sarah, welcome to my show.
Oh, Vera, thank you so much for having me. It's going to be a really good conversation with you. I know that you and I align with a lot of things, and I'm just happy to be here with you.
And I'm noticing two things, and you have to watch video for that. I'm noticing your tattoo on your arm, and I'm noticing that beautiful thing above your head because I have very similar created by my friend without the roots, which I love. But tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, the tattoo, if you can see more of it on the inside, it is a picture for those that are just listening, but for those that are watching too. It's an image of a lioness with kind of like golden like wings, and they're colorful wings with a sun behind her.
Oh,
And
wow.
just, great starting point. This was kind of a spiritual aspect that came to me throughout my journey as in the form of a vision.
Mhm.
And it was like showing me myself, my spiritual self, and what represents me. And this is what came through. So this is me,
Oh,
my
I
spiritual
love
self.
it. Beautiful. Because I only saw the wing. And
Yeah.
so I could guess because the lion is on the inner part of the arm. So that's really, like you said, exquisite start of conversation for anybody. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be like, what? And the tree, I just love this tree because to me it represents kind of like the tree of life.
Yeah.
And it's very symbolic of really all of life, the the mother, if you would.
Yeah. And the foundation that the roots represent, that
Yeah.
everything comes from. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I forgot to ask you where you calling from today.
Yeah, so I am calling from, so I moved actually out to Arizona about 2 years ago, not even 2 years ago now, and I'm based in Flagstaff, Arizona. So for those of you that are, in different parts of the country or the world, come see me. I'm in Flagstaff. I also host my retreats in Sedona, but we got hot, dry weather over here, which is different than what you've got
We got
over
hot,
there.
hot, wet weather.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
luckily we got spared by these amazingly destructive hurricane. We are recording just about that time. We had to reschedule multiple times because of all that threw everything off. And I just want to express that my thoughts and prayers are with those that are still, some even unaccounted for,
Yeah.
unimaginable. And we are used to hurricanes in Florida. It doesn't mean that it becomes routine. And it's always destructive and move things around, energy, uh, properties. And what that tree represents to me, it's that one truth that nothing stays same, whether it's moving forward or backward, but nothing ever stays unchangeable. And I think that's one of the biggest problems we have in life, to adapt to change or to change something that no longer works for us. And I'm sure we will be touching on that later on because I
Yeah.
can't wait for
Yeah.
this conversation. But I want to ask you first, Sarah, where did you grow up? Who were you as a child? What were your dreams then? How did your life look like?
Well, we'll start from the beginning. So I was born and raised in Illinois, the northwest suburbs of Illinois. And from very early on, I was raised in a blended family. So my dad left right when I was born, pretty much right after.
Mm.
My parents split, I should say. My parents split right when I was born, and my mom remarried a few years later, I think when I was two. Around two. So fast forward, so we were kind of growing up in the northwest suburbs in a blended family. There were six of us, three of my mom's children, three of my stepdad's children.
Wow.
So blended, chaotic family, right?
That doesn't
Bringing,
always work out. Yeah.
yeah, bringing two families like that together is
Mm.
very, very hard. And it was very hard. It was a lot of conflict and chaos. And I don't feel that my parents were really equipped to do that. I feel in some ways that my parents were grown-up children. And so as a child, I actually was the same thing that I am now, actually, a therapist, a mediator, a mentor to my parents, ironically.
Oh,
So there was a
wow.
lot of fighting in the house, a lot of, we're going to split up, we're going to stay together. There's crying, there's fighting, there's name calling, um, uh, just
Even
chaos.
among the children as well, because they
Yes,
obviously are infected.
yes,
Yeah.
because it was always like, it was scary.
Yeah.
And so when there's chaos, kids act out, right? So there wasn't too much quarreling between the children, but it was more so just emotional volatility. And so I was kind of like the child counselor. My stepdad would seek me for counsel and mediation and try to get me to talk to
Interesting.
my mom because I could talk to my mom and calm her
Hmm.
down and kind of see both sides rather than taking sides. And this left me a very confused young girl.
Oh, no doubt about that. I was just trying to wonder where that come from in you as a child. Looking back, if you can tell what influenced you to become to how you were seen to others.
This is a great question. And I think that it's more of just my wiring. I think that I was wired this way for a reason from the time I was born. I like to
Mm.
think that I have some ancient wisdom in me from lifetimes of doing this, probably the same thing. And so I just saw things differently, and I can't explain to you why. I just did. I saw people differently. I saw how it should be, more of the utopian view, like we should be getting along, we should be treating
Hmm.
each other this way. Here's how the world should work, and it's not working that way. So, like, we have a dilemma here, right?
Yeah.
And so I think just the wiring that God created me for, which is love and peace and loving each other and these types of things, it just came natural to see. But it also came from adaptation because I had to in order
Yeah.
to bring things into peace because nobody else was doing it,
That's
right?
right.
So I became a master of analyzing people and
Wow.
diving into. And in my alone times, as an 8-year-old kid, I'm in my room thinking about like the concepts of what makes mom outrage like this, what makes mom have outbursts, and how can I calm it down? It was just it almost felt like, and this is why I got into the ego, because that was my ego working for me to say like, hey, figure this out so that you can solve this problem.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there are certain outlets that others may take, either close themselves off or act out or fight, even worse, or run away. And you took it head on, kind of. That's
That's
that.
actually a lot of what my siblings did.
Hmm.
Run,
Yeah.
whether literally or just emotionally and mentally on the inside, going just hiding inside. And honestly, they still do it to this day.
Did you ever question why you were put into this kind of chaos family from beginning?
Let's see. That is such a good question. These are I love these questions. They're so great. They're so thought provoking.
Yeah.
I think okay, it never felt like a question. It felt like a realization.
Mhm.
It felt like oh my gosh, it all makes sense now.
Yeah.
Like as I've evolved into my purpose and in my calling and in my mission and these types of things, I kind of reflect and go, I had to be born into that environment in order
That's
to be
right.
created into this.
Yeah, but when you were in it, when you were 80 years old, trying to figure out what to do with that, what did you feel about that role of yours? Because that could be heavy for child as well, to
You know,
feel that you
honestly,
have to kind of meditate this, Yeah.
yeah. Well, actually, for me, it came more as a thinking adaptation that something must be wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where that came from, right? Sometimes we don't know where these thoughts or these beliefs
Yeah.
come from. But I never said, woe is me. Why am I here? Why am I going through this? It was more like why can't I be normal?
Hmm.
I can't, like everyone else just seems to be going through this life and whatever, and we're gonna move on, or we're gonna push things away, or we're gonna numb things out. I
Yeah.
can't do that. I can't turn this off. What's wrong with me? I want to
So
be
you were
normal
finding guilt
type of
yourself.
mentality. I struggled with that a lot. I
Oh yeah.
struggled with trying to understand myself and realizing that I did not fit into that and feeling like I should want to, but then I didn't. I couldn't, if that
But
makes
then
sense.
what was the point when you realized this is actually preparing you for what you are perhaps meant to do?
Oh gosh, that wasn't until adulthood,
Yeah.
maybe 7, 8 years ago.
Wow.
The more and more I got into being with people in this capacity and evolving and seeing and kind of finally completing some of these lessons, the more I realized this has been a blessing. My pain has been equally proportional to what my purpose is. And it always is that for people, right? Like I like
Yeah.
to tell people your pain is directly proportional and directly related to your purpose.
Yeah. And unfortunately, none of us see it when we are in it. It
Yeah,
usually takes time to look back and realize, yes, there was such a lesson in this, and that's why I was put through this. And it's hard to tell somebody who is going through some very serious issues right this moment to tell them you will learn from it. It doesn't work. Yeah.
exactly, because there's blind spots in the moment, right? But I think that's what consciousness is,
Yeah.
and waking up and becoming more conscious in the moment, where now I can be going through big adversity, big stress, and there's a part of me that's like experiencing the stress,
Hmm.
but there's also another part of me that says it's okay. There's
Yeah.
something here for you.
Yeah.
Find it, complete this, and everything's going to be okay. It always has been, it always will be. So I think from um, experience, we can learn that if we have that outlook. But also with mentorship is really important too, to have voices, to have people in your community or in your life that speak life into you and wisdom in those trying times. I've
That
certainly had that. We all
that
need
was
that.
my yeah, that was my question too. If there was anybody that you can turn on to and kind of gain some support and wisdom from, because the if you were mentoring your parents, you were probably not getting it from them.
Correct. Yeah. And, to be honest, for the longest time, no, I didn't have anybody. I have a very deep and profound relationship with God. So I feel as though that was my biggest source of mentorship and some deep inner wisdom within me. But when my dad re-entered my life at a later time, and we established a relationship, I'd always had um, just a fond connection and thought of him. Even when he left, I missed him. I longed for him. I felt bad for him. I felt like he needs me. He's sad. I can feel him, these types of things.
Hmm.
And so even when he re-entered, there was more just relief that he was back in my life rather than anger that he left in the first place, which a couple of my siblings did have.
Yeah.
He became my biggest mentor, my biggest support, my kind of voice of reason, the real mentor and masculine figure that I needed. And so that has been my biggest source of human inspiration and counsel.
That's wonderful.
And he still is.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank God for that. So you are, let's say 15, 16, 17, you are deciding what you're gonna do with your life. What were your mindset then?
So funny. Here's the story. I remember thinking at that age, I want to be a counselor. I said that I want to be a counselor because I was feeling so much with and I didn't even mention this part. At this time, I was at 15, 16-ish years old. I was recovering slash going through the darkest time of my eating disorder. I had been
Oh,
hospitalized twice. I almost died twice from anorexia and began cutting at this time as well. So it's at this point when I was really growing a passion, like the seed of service was growing in me to say, I want to help. I feel like I can counsel people to help them through basically healing themselves and freeing themselves from these chains that we
yeah.
find ourselves in. Because I felt like I was in chains. I felt like I was in some sort of prison inside.
Yet you were self-harming at the same time. So you
Yeah,
were on one hand helping others, but on the other hand, you need an outlet for all that
that's
anger
right.
and yeah.
Yep. And I don't have it in me to lash out on people or to harm others. So it kind of came out on myself.
Isn't
It
it?
was a way to
Isn't it
express the
silly?
energy, to feel something, and maybe even to say, hi, can anybody see me?
Yeah,
And these are the types of thoughts that people that are going through this have is a form of control because everything felt out of control in my life.
yeah.
And it was can anybody see me? Because everybody feels so wrapped up in
In their
their
own.
own
Yeah.
in their own little
Plus,
world.
like I mentioned before, I think it must have been laying heavy on you to have this kind of responsibility, to feeling this calling and being responsible for mediating all these mess while you supposed to step in and be the adult in the room, which is that's really hard on 8 years old. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not by design. But Vera, the truth is that there are a lot of people that get put in those situations that we
yeah,
call them parentified children. And it's because, and this is where a big passion of mine grows into helping and healing and people doing their due diligence into healing. Because when we grow up without doing our own healing and we have kids, we become children raising children.
yeah,
And children need adults. They need as whole as possible. They need wholesome adult behavior raising them so that they can be a kid. But there are a lot of parentified children that get up in this way. And here's the thing. Here's the bright side to it. These types of people grow up to be very wise, very much there for others. They're a leader. They have a very profound way of thinking, but they feel perpetually alone.
yeah,
And that's the dark side to it.
because they always were. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So what did you do with the counseling in your mind that you want to do some kind of
Okay.
service?
So here's how it happened, right? I wanted to be a counselor because I was going through all of that stuff. And then fast forward, it kind of morphed into and this is totally unrelated. I wanted to be a forensic pathologist.
What?
And here is my rationale, right? I was like, I'm so good at figuring things out. I have a detective mind. I can follow clues and think things through, take big things, condense everything down. And I don't know what it was. I just wanted to figure out how people died.
Yeah,
And this little passion grew in me. But that as I was in school and I was going through the process and you're around dead bodies and you're doing these types of things, I'm like, I think I don't want to be around dead people.
it's
I
kind
think
of
I want to
dark,
be around
even
alive.
darker than dark. Yes, and I'm
Yeah,
just
I
like,
was like, I don't think this is good for my psyche because I'm so
yeah,
sensitive, right? I'm very strong, and you may be getting a vibe that I'm very strong, but I am so sensitive to life, so sensitive to suffering. I think that career would break me.
yeah. And
I don't
it's
have it.
it's funny what you just said because I think so many times we see someone as a being strong and we don't realize that there is a personality behind that that may need help, but they are too proud to ask for it. And usually that doesn't get worked out. And yeah,
Yeah, and
it's
it's not even, sometimes it's not even pride, right? Sometimes it's because they had to.
yeah,
Sometimes it's that strength was the thing that served them the best. For me, that was the case. Me being strong saved our family. Me being
yeah.
strong, allowed me to get out of abusive situations. Me being strong, pushed me into creating something that's good for people. So it's like, it's it's interesting, but I think that it's important to note that when we go out into the world and we see people, remember that we are only seeing this much.
Exactly.
And there is a whole depth, layers of the onion that are beneath that person, that if we just pause long enough or have enough compassion, and this comes with confidence too. If you have confidence, you can allow people to share who they are, because you don't have to fear anything that they're
And
going to
you are
show you.
not threatening. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny you said that, because I actually have this to demonstrate this very fact in my
I love
when
that.
I speak publicly, what do you see? And then we go through the matryoshka, of course, because there's so many layers that, you know, we allow people to see. And then there's the deep, deep root that sometimes we are even afraid to look at.
Yeah, and the truth is like, does anybody really know who you really are at the deepest level? I probably not, probably not. And people usually only know what we are willing to show them, or if they're intuitive, they can see beneath those layers.
Yeah.
But even then, we're only seeing, I make this analogy in my book about when we're looking at other people, the concept of understanding, right? It's impossible for people to really fully understand you and for us to fully understand other people, because if we're a house, this is my house, you are your own house, and I can only look out through windows
Yeah.
into your windows and see portions of you at a time.
Yeah.
And you could close the shades and then
Yeah,
not
which
let me
is an
see it, and
opinion and not the reality that
not
is
the full
being
truth.
seen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not the
yeah,
full
yeah,
truth. So
absolutely.
anyways, back to the story. So this forensic pathology, I was like, yeah, I probably don't want to be around dead people. Probably want to be around alive people. And but then I it was at this time I was getting very, very into fitness and health and fitness. Again, this was kind of still an addiction for me, a way of controlling and a way of having control over something. And people just began coming to me asking for help.
Were you at
And
this time still struggling with your eating disorders?
not severely, but I would say um I still had it was still covering me, but it wasn't so apparent. I thought to myself, if I could just mask this with health and fitness and bodybuilding and stuff, then people won't really think I have
That's
any
why I'm
needs. They'll
asking.
think I'm
Exactly.
healthy.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, for
that's
sure. Oh,
exactly.
for sure. I was still in that way. I was still in the obsessive compulsive um operating system, and that's why bodybuilding seemed like a natural choice for me, right? Because you have to control everything you
Yeah,
eat and the
very
working
smart.
out and all this stuff. Yeah, I'm very,
Building the facade that covers it.
exactly, exactly. And
Yeah.
I think that at that time I did think that I was doing it. Like I believed my own lie. I believed my own lie that I was doing this for health reasons. But I wasn't. So so I started coaching people because obviously my physique was taking this really strong shape. You can find pictures of that online probably. I looked insane, competing and starting to coaching people. Well,
On a
so
bodybuilding or fitness?
fitness, wellness, health, yeah, people
Mhm.
began coming to me left and right. And so um fast forward a little bit, I'm married at this time to a narcissist, didn't know it at the time, but
Mm.
we started a company together, a fitness coaching company. So at this time, I mean, my fitness coaching just kind of blew up. I had people on a wait list just waiting to work with me. But I realized that what I was working with people more on was their mindset,
Yeah.
their emotions, the things that were blocking them towards their health and fitness. So I'm starting coaching right away, right? And this is just kind of morphing and evolving over time to the point when I'm like, I really love this. I love that I can basically be a therapist to people in the gym while we're moving because movement helps these things take root more. And I feel like I'm actually helping these people more than their actual therapists sitting in a room talking to
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
So this was very cool for me that I began expanding and creating masterminds and workshops and courses based off of my own education that I was doing and growth. When I got a divorce from my narcissistic husband, which was kind of the catalyst to everything that I'm doing now, it was kind of like a final moment for me where being in that relationship felt like the culmination of my entire life being kept under a, I don't know, shade behind a door, hidden. And
Mm.
I was just like, I'm done with this. No more. I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not letting anybody push me down, push me under, make me feel less than all these types of things. And so breaking
Can I?
free from that marriage and realizing that, go ahead, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Can I go back there because I'm just curious, and it's okay if you don't feel like going back there because I know it's not pleasant, but I am familiar how that kind of relationship may look like for women. And how did the business part of it look like? Because you were business partner, and that's gotta be so
Miserable.
interesting.
It was miserable, Vera.
Yeah.
I worked full time at a winery and restaurant and then worked in our business. Um, it was miserable. Our whole lives were that business, and our whole relationship depended on if I was pleasing to him in in that business or not. If I was making mistakes, and it was constant berating, making me feel less than, and I need him rather than he needs me.
Yeah.
And every time I made a mistake, it became this whole big thing about how my thinking is off. And I remember these words exactly. You're not made to be a millionaire's wife. And I'm just like, it was just a constant push and pull of you're absolutely useless and horrible versus when I would then he would see me shift and like pull away. And then he would say, you're the best thing that ever happened to me and
Yeah,
all these things.
because
It was
they
just a
can't let
total,
you go far enough. Yeah.
yeah, hot and
Yeah.
cold, hot and cold. Is
Yeah.
if he feels that I'm a little bit out of reach, pull me back in. And so it was I look back on pictures, Vera, and I see that I was like lifeless at the time. You could see, I mean, I look totally different right now. I was colorless. You could see it in my face and in my aura that I was like a dead girl walking.
Yeah.
And of
It
course
takes
at the time,
everything from you because it takes your personality away, your
yes.
identity. Yeah.
And you begin to think, right? Like
Right.
you begin
Question everything.
to, yeah, questioning everything. And also, like, who am I really?
Yeah.
I must be this awful, flawed person that it is, it's a hard thing to recover from. Weirdly enough, I felt on day one of marrying this man that I wasn't doing the right thing, that something was off. And I didn't listen to my intuition, Vera. And I
Unfortunately.
didn't listen and I did it anyway. But at the same time, though, I feel like there was almost something moving me, like pushing me into that. And
Yeah.
we talk about in the beginning we were talking about things going forward or changing or whatever. I personally think that everything is always going forward, even though we're not on a strict, forward, backward timeline. I personally think that everything is going forward. And even if it feels like destruction, even if it feels like pain or whatever that may be, it's going forward. And for whatever reason, I needed that relationship because during those 5 years, I felt like a pressure was being created. And I was like, there's gonna be a moment. I literally felt this. There's gonna be a moment when I break free. And it's gonna be like
You
a that
needed
type of
that
thing.
final push. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
It just
And
reminds
that's
me of
that's
my own moment in my life
you
that
have one too?
I never saw it as a narcissistic, but looking back, it definitely almost 100% was. I called it a lot of emotional blackmail at that
Mm,
time, manipulation and stuff, but I didn't last that long. And it's funny when you said this, because I got to that point when no matter what he did, what he said, what he tried to repair, promise, lied about, something broke in me. And from that moment, I knew I need to find my path out. And nothing would change it. It, like you said, it builds you. You were already strong, and I believe I was too, because I was making my own decision very early on, but against everybody's advice, of course. But this moment, it just reminded me what you said, because it built me to the moment when I said I would never, ever let anybody treating me this way again.
yep. And
And
from that moment forward, you probably never looked back.
and you look at some women, and I say it with the most compassion that I have, breaking your heart, because you see how they are making the same choices over and over and over again. They escape one abusive relationship and they enter another one that is even worse or same. And they are like in this vicious cycle of self-abuse, because that's the almost like addiction. They can see themselves liberated by, they don't value themselves enough. If that's my, I'm not in mental health space, this is my opinion, okay? But I'm like, when you said that, it just brought so many things back to me, and I'm thinking like, yeah, you either build yourself up and realize what has been done to you, so you never repeat it again, and you have to start loving yourself in order to do that, or you lie to yourself that this is the way it is and you have to deal with it, and that's the best you could ever get, right?
Yeah, and this again, comes back to the nature of the ego. And what typically happens is that we will go through life when we have beliefs that take root early on from our childhood experiences. We will go through life either trying to verify those beliefs
Yep.
or try to prove them wrong.
Right.
And that's going to be our path, right? So if I'm going to verify, so for me, I'll just use myself an example. Because of the fact that my dad was not present and I longed for that masculine presence, he was, for all intents and purposes, emotionally unavailable. And so I sought men, unbeknownst to me, I sought men that were emotionally unavailable.
Correct.
And in my brain, right, the younger part of me, I thought to myself, well, I can change them. They'll choose me. And finally I'll be the one that gets chosen and gets their attention. And it was always a conquest in some way. And here's the problem with that, right? When we operate from that way, we never find true love.
Yeah.
Because here's the problem. Even if I did win, quote unquote, even if I did win that person's love or affection over, it's not actually love because I had to be something or somebody that I'm technically not in
Correct.
order for them to approve of me. It's an exchange rather than a true love. And so the we change these patterns, by the way, when we desire healing on the inside rather than like something external,
That's right. Yeah.
that we desire to heal. So this comes down to accountability and ownership rather than saying, oh my gosh, woe is me. Why am I such a victim of all of my life circumstances? Why can't I have what such so and so has? Why can't I have an easy life?
Mhm.
Why, what did I do in my past life to deserve this or whatever it may be? We turn it around and we say, what what is the common theme here? What am I attracting into my life that's very similar? And why? Do I believe that I actually deserve something better than that? Do I feel, and this comes down to friendships too, right? I have so many people that just kind of circulate in low level, gossipy type of toxic circles. And or you have somebody who's like kind of good at something and their whole circle just praises them.
Yeah.
And they'll stay there. They'll stay at that really comfortable place because they feel empowered or something positive from all these people praising them. Not
Or
realizing that,
I can enter the third kind where you do some personal growth, and when you start realizing things and you start changing, and you have circle of friends that is pulling you back because
yes,
now you are outgrowing them, and it triggers them because you are pointing at their flaws that they are not even willing to look at.
you
Not
got
that you
it.
become preachy, but you stand out now and they don't like it because you are not part of that complaining circle.
Yeah, yeah. And here's where people have two options, right? They continue to pursue their growth because they're committed to it, and they may lose some friends along the way and have to change circles. And
Yeah,
that is lonely for a little bit, but you eventually find a new tribe.
exactly.
Um, or they kind of bring themselves back down, abandon or deny their true selves and their true calling in order to stay with that friendship circle. Here's the concept of that, right? And I want to make this clear because a lot of times we can harm ourselves with getting very angry at people when we are growing and they don't like our growth. They're feeling directly threatened by it.
Yeah.
Here's the main underlying concept of why they do that, right? Maybe this can help with some compassion towards them. Most of the time, and I like to see people as generally good, rather than generally evil. So if people are generally good,
Hmm.
most often this is because they're afraid of you leaving them.
Yeah.
They're afraid of you abandoning them. And in a way, if you change, if you're no longer the person that they once knew in that friendship, you have abandoned them in their mind.
Yeah.
Not literally. I'm not saying that you have done this, but in their mind, you abandon them because now I don't know who you are, right?
Yeah. You change.
Um,
Yeah.
or the second one, and this is more of the egotistical, egoic part, is to say, oh my gosh, this person is now highlighting all the parts of myself that I don't like and I'm not doing. And just by you doing that, you are now a villain.
It's triggering. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then people that were once close to you all of a sudden repel you or act harshly towards you or push you away because you're the villain. And for people that this happens to, that's very hard to come to terms with. Because now I'm growing and I'm experiencing immense relational pain
Yeah.
because of my growth. Now I
Because
have to be
you
careful.
are proud of your growth and then you are supposed to feel guilty about it, right?
Yes. And so
Yeah.
here's what's really important for people at this point of the game, right? It's so important to be intentional because our brains, we are constantly associating things, right? This is positive. This is associated with positive feelings. This is associated with negative feelings. Don't want to do that. This is how you get people to stop smoking. If you associate enough negative feelings and negative consequences with the smoking, they will stop. They will stop. So if we start associating pain, relationship breakdown, negative feelings with growth, what are the chances that we're going to grow and continue to grow? It's going to feel very hard.
Yeah. And then you have people who are holding grudge and using it as an excuse for 50, 60 years of their life,
Yeah.
never even willing to be to entertain the idea that maybe they need to start looking at forgiveness, not because they want to forgive some behavior, but because of themselves and their
They
own
want to be
mental health.
free.
Yeah, because then
Yeah.
looking back, if they did take an honest look, they would see all the health issues and all the mental issues that came from that simple thing that they are using as an excuse for a decades of their life, which is really terrifying. When you follow any of the teachings, it all goes back to what are you doing to yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the self-love is so overused term lately, but it is, when you think of it, that's really who we love the least, because we are always in service and helping everybody else, but sometimes looking in the mirror, come back to yourself, because we are not meant, none of us is meant to live in chaos or stress. We are not built for that. So once you realize how you're harming your health by being constantly stressful, or stressing about everything, being triggered by everything, it's such a dangerous state of mind, because that leads to destruction, and not only mentally but physically, because it affects our physical health. So basically what you went through showed you that all you need in life is really realization and calm it down.
Gosh, that's, I really honor you for your attentiveness. You're very
Thank
intuitive
you.
and attentive, and because you're spot on. I mean, all that season of my life when I was really stepping into all of this and establishing the clear direction, I thought I knew my purpose. I thought I knew my mission and all of those things. But it wasn't until after all of that where I felt like I was closing an entire book of my life and everything clicked. And this pursuit of peace, of inner peace.
Yeah.
It really is, first of all, on your path to healing, that's what you're moving towards. You're moving towards peace. We all want peace. And the truth is that most of the time, none of us feel it. We feel something else, not peace. And we may have moments of it. And what that really represents is that moment of presence where you drop in and you realize, like, everything is okay. I don't have to worry about any of this. But like you said, the sound bowls, the meditation, I think, and this is what I say to my students all the time, I have been my biggest student because I literally grew up in chaos and my whole world was chaos. And sometimes, Vera, to be honest with you, it still feels like chaos inside.
Yeah.
You plug into the music that I'm listening to, it's all calming and relaxing. It's all about your state. And I wrote these affirmations at first because they were coming through for me during the most chaotic, fearful, changing, all this stuff was changing. There's so much change.
Yeah.
Nothing was static. Everything was changing. And this was, and then COVID, and then there's more change and more uncertainty.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, this is the world. The world is changing. The world is uncertain. What do we have to hold on to that is stable, secure, immovable, solid? And, so these affirmations came through to me because I needed them. And I realized, okay, you want me to write this book? I gotcha. Sweet. But remember, like, for me, what that looked like was experiencing every affirmation in this book of peace, experiencing it in real time, because you can't just write about something without not having gone through it.
Right.
So, when you say yes to God, when you say yes to the universe, get ready because you're about to be going through it. So writing that book was both a blessing because it really did bring me peace at a time when I needed it, but it also meant that, like, oh gosh, I'm going through the fire right now because of all the affirmations in this book, Vera. They're relatable to what all people go through. It's what we all experience in this human experience, dealing with people, dealing with life, dealing with the need to do more, to be more, race to the top, stressing, anxiety, all the stuff that we all experience. It's just nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
So I think that in a way you nailed it by saying all of this has been an obsession with peace.
It is. And you touched on a very important part of that whole process, that you wrote a book about it, you are teaching it, you are practicing it, doesn't mean that you are 100% Zen all the time. And I think that's what stops a lot of people from even trying, because they approach even meditations with that mindset, unless I have quiet my mind completely, I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So they put a new pressure on them to be
Exactly.
perfectionist in something that is imperfect. If you take few deep breaths and you focus and slow down for 2-3 minutes, you are doing it. You are meditating, and you are talking to somebody who was laughing at this maybe 15, 20 years ago. I would be the poster child of, oh my God, yeah, right, sure, she's finding herself, get life. I would be so dismissive of all this because I had, a lot of trouble time myself, but I grew up from it being very powerful and just pushing through and believing
Yeah.
that, if I show weakness, it will, it will affect me. So I was go-getter. My success in work was my identity, all the wrong things until something forcefully stops you. And then you start getting those messages from different sources. And until you start listening and paying attention, you actually realize that they are coming through. It is the same thing, just said maybe a little differently, but it's the same message. And now it's coming at you from people that you respect and admire. And it starts making sense, and suddenly it will finally grab you. All right, just pay attention, will you?
Yeah, it's funny. There's an affirmation in my book directly about that, about success isn't about doing, it's who you are and how you be.
Yeah.
And then there's another one about how this path isn't linear, right? And I think that a lot of times what you said is very true. They won't follow that path of growth or meditation or spiritual awareness, because they'll have those moments when they still react, quote unquote, like their old self. And now all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I've gone backwards. I'm back at
Right.
square one. I
Yeah.
hear that all the time. I'm
Yeah.
back at
Yeah.
square one. No, you're not, right? The path isn't linear. And so to have peace in the fact that, of going forward, that you can't be going backwards. Like you can't be forward and backward and all of these things. It's like you're climbing the mountain. If this whole journey is a mountain, even if you go sideways or have to take a couple steps down to go back up again, you're still on the path.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And again, I just find like with what you were saying, this resonation of those beliefs, like don't show weakness. And somewhere in there, there's a belief about you having weakness.
Right.
Somewhere in there, there's a belief of like, if I'm not perfect or a strong go-getter driving forward, then something, so it's like it's always one of two things, Vera. It's a strong pull towards something up there that is better,
Mm-hmm.
or a strong push away from something back there that is very scary. And what I realized, just to give you some transparency, what I realized after my divorce is I was doing a lot of pushing away from something back there that was scary and I don't want to ever experience again.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest with you, that is exhausting.
Yes.
That gets very tiring very quickly. And there was a moment I realized that I was like, okay, Sarah, you're basically operating on adrenaline and stress and fear
And fear.
and
Yeah.
proving somebody wrong.
Yeah.
This is a fuel that burns up very quickly.
It's kind of new
fuel
addiction
source.
too, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is, it's none of the lives none of the people that we know have simple, direct line to success. It's always, and that's why I love to talk to people like you, because when you peel the few layers of the onion that we talked about in the beginning, you start realizing what they become is what they went through. And that's absolutely unique journey for every single person in the world. And you can never fully understand because, like we spoke before, nobody's in your shoes and nobody has the unique, complex collection of problems and issues and things that you're dealing with in your environment, with your health, with your lifestyle, with people around you. All these things are absolutely unique to us. So finding somebody like you who can actually help to guide through this and find the light for people, who is the typical person that comes to you for help?
Yeah. Well, first I want to touch on something you said in there. It's so funny because I feel like we're all so different with our unique makeup. But at the same time, like there's a dichotomy here that we are all so much the same.
Yeah.
Like we all typically want the same things. We desire the same things. We usually react to the same things, but our life circumstances and how we go about doing that is totally different person to person. So I just thought that that was very interesting and wanted to note that. People that usually come to me are people who are recognizing, like I never get people who are like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to come to therapy or some sort of healing thing,
Right.
and they're just here. No, they're people who have recognized that they have painful patterns in their life or painful relationship trends, or who are kind of spiritually seeking connection and discovering their true self, their
Yeah.
spiritual self. And a lot of the times these people have come from traumatic religious backgrounds. There's a lot of religious trauma in the world. I can totally admit to that. So these are the types of people that come to me. They realize that they have painful patterns and they're like, I'm ready to heal. Like, I want these to change.
Yeah, the awareness is so important. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Um, and they also probably are a little bit aware that they have some trauma, some childhood trauma that relates to that. Or they're experiencing, a painful relationship happening has just pushed them into this kind of awareness. It's usually a relationship that does this. It's a catalyst. It's a good catalyst too. It
Yeah.
was my catalyst.
Yeah.
So I
Because
guess
then,
that
like
makes
you
sense.
said, if you really start thinking about it, you realize that there is the common theme to all these
Yes.
bad experiences, and that's you.
Yeah. And
So
there's nothing like an intimate relationship to bring out the best and the worst parts of you. Because they're both our source of biggest joy and fulfillment, but they're also our biggest source of pain and heartache. So, relationships really do bring this up in people. And then there are those people that are just like, I feel like I'm on the verge of a breakthrough and like stepping into my purpose and my calling, but something is holding me back. And I'm like ready to break into it. I need that oomph. So those are the types of people that usually find their way to me.
yeah, yeah,
And I
because
love working with those, by the way.
of course, because they know what they want and they'll do whatever necessary to get there.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
truth is that there are some bad eggs out there, right, in the healing space and the therapeutic space. But once they feel safe, at least in my space, because everybody can feel safe in my space, I can 100% say that with certainty and go to bed very calmly at night, knowing that my space is a safe space for people to do that. So once people are ready and they're like, whatever we do here, I'm all in,
Mhm.
and I'm going to do it. There is 100% of the time transformation.
Yeah.
100% of the time when people really do that. And, my program is amazing, but I can tell you this right now. If you come in and you're like, not really ready, not really wanting to, it will definitely impact you, but it won't transform you.
Yeah.
So,
That's the thing that is it's so important to say, because I have heard many people and online following different groups and stuff, and there's always somebody who is like, oh, it totally didn't work for me and blah blah blah. And I know for fact, if you're not ready to change, nobody will make it for you.
yeah,
You have to get to that revelation and realization that you are ruining your own life or health, and it's non-negotiable. Something needs to change and you need help with that. And then you reach for people like Sarah who can actually help you,
walk
so
you
you
through
don't
that.
have to go through painful path of tests, trials and errors. But it starts with you, and nothing will
Yeah.
work unless you want that change. And
Yeah.
somebody funny, like I used to write posts in social media, you don't hire a personal trainer to do the push-ups for you. You hire a personal trainer to be
To show
there to
you
make
how.
sure that you're doing them right, you're
Yeah.
not hurting yourself, and that you are accountable. Because we are slipping, we can have all the goals and aspirations, but you don't maintain that motivation level every single day, 24/7.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
life is messy and we go through stuff, and emotionally the tools that you have to, first of all, calm your mind, refocus on what's priority for you, and start working on that, and kind of eliminate that noise that is not important right now and it's holding you back or keeping you stuck, like it's very popular word. That's where this help is priceless, because you can spend years studying and uh, intellectually evaluating programs, books, courses. We all have done that. I'm not exception. You go somewhere, you hear stuff that you already know, you start nodding your head and turn it off because, yeah, I already know. But did you implement it? No, but I already know that. So you can do that circle. It's another vicious circle of intellectually evaluating. Yeah. But you haven't done the work. Yeah.
This is another affirmation in my book about how true wisdom comes when you put your knowledge to use and
Yeah.
you do it. And so to caution people against becoming like addicted to growth, addicted to learning, because you can be just more and more learning, more
Yeah.
tools, more courses, more programs, more this, more that, and not be integrating or putting any into practice. And that's not true wisdom.
And nothing ever changed.
Yeah. So it's like before we are taking in, just piling it in, if I'm already full and I haven't like integrated and assimilated what I already have, then it's just gonna fall right out.
Yeah.
It's
I
just gonna
have
fall right
had
out.
I have had once a coaching session with someone I deeply care about, and she has been in therapy for years for multiple issues. And this is not the only time I have experienced this, because I have experienced it in different fields. People like that are already trained what to look for, how to answer questions, what to expect. They already know the answers you want to hear. And it's the only way that works is you have to interrupt that pattern for them, because
Yeah.
they will just follow. Because if you are in therapy for years and nothing changed for you, then yes, you may be addicted to that pain and you keep going back there and you just keep repeating the same thing, but you don't really actually change things.
Well,
And
this is why, this is why I talk a lot about the difference between hypnotherapy and talk therapy, because we have been kind of conditioned as a society, that traditional licensed talk therapy is the way to go. But
yeah,
the truth is that you're only touching things on a conscious level. You're not going to, number one, the subconscious level, and you're also not getting it in the body. So
yeah,
when we're talking about true healing and true resolution, and some of the times too, this is both a flaw with the system. It's also a flaw with the person, thinking that I can feel good about myself by checking it off the list that I go to therapy.
yeah,
Right. I'm
I
on the
did the
growth
work,
path. I go to
right? Yeah,
therapy. Yeah,
yeah.
I do the things. I'm doing the things.
Mm-hmm.
When really you're not. And I have found that a lot of licensed therapists are so restricted in the way that they can help people. And it's because they're only allowed to do this one thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm
Yeah.
I'm giving a visual of just like a linear back and forth talking. And actually I have noticed that sometimes talk therapy makes things worse. The reason is because we're just cycling the same story that's in our head over and over and
Yeah.
over. And we know with neuroplasticity that the more you ingrain that pattern, the deeper the groove becomes.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about interrupting a pattern, right, in hypnotherapy, this is great for it because you're interrupting the pattern, you're putting yourself into a different state, even though we're in hypnosis many different times throughout the day. And you actually have the ability to create a new groove in your brain and then reiterate that pattern
Yeah.
when you each time you go away. And the other thing that you talked about earlier on was finding it in the body. You know, the first thing we do in hypnosis or anything that I do at my retreats too is we start with the body because the body is the first place that people become disassociated with, disconnected with, out of tune with when something happens. And a lot of the times I'll by simply asking people, where do you feel that in your body?
Yeah.
If you have an emotion, where do you feel it in their body? They're always going to find it. They always find it, but they're like, wow, that feels like a fiery warmth in my stomach or something like that. They're like, I had no idea that was even there. You know, so finding these places in our body and reconnecting with, because our body is, we are an instrument.
Yeah.
We are an instrument. And we get out of tune by disconnecting in this way, and we get back in tune by reconnecting in that way. So healing is so again layered. We have to touch all the points. We have to touch the body, we have to touch the mind, both the conscious and the subconscious, and we have to touch the spirit, because when one of those is out of alignment, the whole thing is out of alignment.
Yeah. What is your opinion about putting labels on things?
Like
I have,
diagnoses.
I have exactly, and I always looked at it from my point of view as disempowering tool.
Yeah,
Once you put a label on it, you have all the excuses you were ever looking for.
absolutely.
You cannot change
Well,
this. This is out of your hands.
and we'll take it even deeper, right? Whenever we have an I am statement for ourselves, it becomes an identity.
Yeah.
So if I am ADHD, well, I have to, because the ego's biggest fear is being incongruent or being a lie to what it thinks that it is. So if I take that in as an identity and a belief, I'm ADHD, then I have to live that out.
Yeah, and defend it.
Yes. So now I will literally embody the characteristics of what you've just told me. I strongly dislike diagnoses because number one, it puts in a way a death sentence on people.
Right.
And like you said, they go down that path. It's very a subconscious direction point that people just start going down. And I know that with healing processes, especially when it comes to the subconscious mind, if the subconscious mind believes that you cannot be cured from this thing, no matter what you do, no matter what healing modality you do, you will not heal because your deep-seated belief is that you can't.
And that runs about 80% of our intelligence anyway. I
Oh,
don't
more than that.
yeah, if you follow the
Yeah.
Joe Dispenza teachings and work, it's mind-boggling because
Yes.
it works the other way too. If you defy all the odds, and no matter what anybody tells you, what other grave prognosis million people tell you, if you deeply believe that you can beat this and you put the work in that is really deep, and you actually become your subconscious mind that's confirming that absolutely you are powerful and you can do any, absolute miracles are happening.
Well, this is why affirmations are so powerful. This is why getting into your subconscious mind is so powerful, because in this way, we get to take a look at our true programming and then we get to choose. Well, gosh, if I've been operating out of a sense of lack, I would like to change that.
Yeah.
So, what do I need to program new into my subconscious mind to say I'm abundant and attract all these good things? Let's do that.
Yeah.
This
It
is that
sounds very
that's true
simple,
ownership.
and it sounds like voodoo to some people that never looked into this, but there is a real science behind it.
Oh,
And
there's a
it's
science. Yeah.
absolutely proven that we can reprogram our mind and we can reprogram the direction of our life. But
Our minds are so powerful, so powerful. Do you know, this is just kind of like a last thing, and then I have a meeting right after this, that women can actually make themselves lactate if they believe or want a baby really badly. That's the power of your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind can do virtually anything.
Yeah.
It's limitless.
Yeah.
Just a fun fact with hypnosis, it started in the medical and dental industry where surgeons and doctors were trying to do these surgeries without anesthesia.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a state of hypnosis that can bring you so deep that you don't even feel pain. They have done open heart surgeries and full on dental removals with zero anesthesia, just hypnosis.
Yeah.
Because your mind can just, you can have your mind tell you, no more pain. I don't feel any pain.
There is this infamous situation from history when those monks that were put on fire meditated themselves into such a state of mind that they did not feel the pain.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah,
I
it,
definitely
it's
believe that.
it's 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 incredibly powerful, and we misuse our mind most of the time.
You know, it's part of the whole human experience is figuring that out. I really think that that is a large part of the purpose of life.
So let's finish this podcast because I know we have been speaking a really long time, but I
I could talk
love
to
the
you for a long
conversation.
time, Vera.
I love the conversation because every time you learn something new. And
Yeah.
I hope that our listeners will as well. And, I attract people that are on the path to healing and personal growth. If somebody is listening to this and they may not be ready to reach out to you yet, but they are thinking about steps that they should take to get out of the situations that they are in, or they just feel that something needs to change in their life, what would be one thing that you can help them with that will start them on the right path that they maybe can do on their own?
Well, I would say two things to that. I would say any step is a good first step. And even if they're quote unquote not ready to do big transformations, reaching out is always a good option to have conversations about this. But the thing that has changed my life and that I can to help people, encourage people to do individually is actually something very simple, and it's meditation. We can begin with a simple practice of meditating, of slowing down, of getting still. You're already in that process of changing the pattern, right? When things feel fast, get slow. I've got guided meditations on my website too, and there are tons more out there. My guided meditations are very much to help you practice
Mm-hmm.
and exercise the muscle of connecting with your subconscious mind and your body. But there are other ones out there too. So meditation, I think, is something that pivotally, profoundly changes the course of wherever we are.
Yeah.
And it's a practice that I can just highly encourage. But I also say it doesn't matter where you are, reach out because um, a lot of the times the transformation happens when just there's a perfect chemistry of where you've been and where you are in this state of readiness. So all of it, like I say, is kind of like drops in the bucket. And as long as you can keep making drops in the bucket, then eventually there will be an overflow. And that's when you have that big breakthrough that we all talk about, which I can say happens many times throughout your life, not just once, but
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
yeah.
absolutely. This is delightful, and I hope people will take away a lot of wisdoms from this podcast. Even if you decide that maybe you cannot work with Sarah right now, but you are on that way, and that's to be celebrated because
Hmm.
it's for many people it never even happens. The realization that they may need to change something in order to get their life on order and get their life.
Yeah, and you know, nothing changes if we don't make a change.
That's right. That's right.
So
Anything I didn't ask you that you would like to say towards the end of our
yeah,
podcast?
I mean, hey, just reach out. I hope that this brought so much value to your listeners. I love to hear feedback on these types of things, or if I can help you in any way. You know, I'm on social media, Sarah_Spark Malone. You can email me, Sarah@sparkflc.com. You can just Google me and a lot is going to pop up.
I will
And
put all the links to the show notes so people can
yeah,
find it.
yeah. So, you know, just to open up a conversation, I love connecting with people. So just reach out. Tell me what points jumped out to you between Vera and I. And Vera, I just really honor you because you have such a pure heart. I can sense that and see it. You asked these very intriguing questions, and it's been an honor and a pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, same for me. And I'm on my mission. You know, it's been a long time coming. I definitely wasn't born with it like you. And it took me a really long time to realize certain powers that I have over my own mindset and you know, making my life better. And we all go through a lot of stuff. It's never excuse to abandon yourself and just keep running with it uncontrollably, seemingly, with things that are out, because there will always be something out of our controls. And
Yeah.
it's when you start gaining some power back to what is there that you can do right now, what is there that you can control. And it's usually just yourself, not
Yep,
even the
that's
closest
right.
people around you. It is a big realization when you have more power to change things for you as you ever realized. And that's been my biggest discovery. And you know, and it's not that long ago. It's been really kind of running with the races, and then you either are forced to stop with something
Yeah.
happening, or you just slowly grow into the realization there must be more to life than just this.
Exactly. That's so funny that you said that because that is like the tagline to my retreats is yes, there is more. And yes, you were made for more. And
Yeah.
we can all experience it. The last thing I just want to say too is if anybody's interested, I don't know when this is being posted, but I host free workshops every other weekend, every other Saturday about the ego and the soul, talking a lot about what we just talked about, but taking a deeper dive. So I invite anybody into that. It's totally free. It's 2 hours on a Saturday. It's called Discovering Your True Self, and you could find it on Eventbrite. So if anyone's looking for free
Okay.
stuff, there you go.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here. This was absolute pleasure for me. And definitely there is an array of people that you can choose. And if you're resonating with Sarah, if you're resonating with her life story, with who she is, I encourage you to reach out and have a conversation. That's all it takes. And you never know where it's gonna lead.
Amen to that.
Thank you
Thank you for
so
your
much.
work, Vera.
Absolutely, Joy. Thank you.